Trump's new art of the deal playbook, threatening steep tariffs as an act of diplomacy. This weekend, Trump warned he will inflict a 100% tariff on BRICS nations if they move away from the American dollar. The coalition of countries includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. BRICS. This comes on the heels of what Trump called a, quote, very productive meeting this weekend with Canada's Prime Minister. Justin Trudeau met with Trump Friday at Mar-a-Lago to discuss Trump's threat to impose a 25% tariff on all goods from Canada. Joining us now, the moment has arrived in which the one and only, the host of Velshi, Ali Velshi himself, is at the table with the weekend.
So exciting, guys. Thank you so much. I'm a huge, we're all friends, but I'm a huge admirer of this show. And I know I get a little bit at the end of it, but this is a lot of fun for me.
You know, we haven't invited you here for your economic expertise. We've invited you as a Canadian to tell us what you think about Justin Trudeau.
We're going to the premium these days. I'm your emotional support Canadian. How may I help?
Explain to me, I understand this is not like real economics. Economics is not what is driving any of these decisions around tariffs, around specifically
it's
100%.
Mostly political, yes. A little bit of economics, but mostly political.
What's he doing?
Well, let's talk about this BRICS thing. This is interesting. BRICS is a group that started in 2005, 2006. It was BRIC, and then they added South Africa. They recently had a meeting, and Vladimir Putin was there, and the whole thing has changed. These were emerging economies that were not part of the G7, not part of what Russia was. It was G8, but they were sort of on the side, really fast-growing big economies. Think about that: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. This is a lot of stuff. They have had a discussion in recent years about shifting away from the dollar. At one point, they were talking about using the Chinese currency. Obviously, Russia would very much like to not have the dollar central to its operations, and they're talking about switching away from the dollar. So now Donald Trump, after talking about the tariffs on Canada and the U.S. and Canada and Mexico and China, has now added a separate thing that he'll put 100% tariffs on these countries if they stop using the American dollar for trade. They're probably not going to switch away from the American dollar, but it was a point of leverage for them. Then you're talking about this other stuff, Mexico, Canada, and China. He talked about fentanyl and immigration. That's not a Canada problem, so it's kind of weird that Canada got roped into this thing. But what it is the way he starts a negotiation, right? The rest of us would say, hey, let's renegotiate these trade deals we've got. He's got everybody to the table. Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico is going tit for tat with him. He's saying, you do this to us, we'll do it to you. Justin Trudeau, who's in trouble politically at home, is taking a different approach. He's going in saying, hey, a very Canadian way of doing things. Hey, can we just talk about this, guys? China's where the issue is. There's a real thing that has to be solved with our trade relationships with China. And China's vulnerable right now because their economy is softening. They are zero interested in a trade fight with America. They're even zero interested in taking over Taiwan at this point because they don't want to happen to them what has happened to Russia. They don't want to be a pariah and they don't want to be isolated. So Trump's, as is often the case, he's onto something. But he's taking a sledgehammer where you need not just a stiletto, but a years and years of negotiation. So we do need to reorder the way the world trades. He wants to get there. This isn't going to be the way he gets.
So is that why we see over the last few weeks, and certainly as the Wall Street Journal's reported yesterday, quote, corporate America is unleashing an unorthodox campaign to influence Donald Trump's agenda in the weeks leading up to his second inauguration, a period that is emerging as a key stretch for shaping the next administration. To break into the unusual circle of influence that surrounds Trump, chief executives are discussing whether to try to secure an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast. Okay, they're buying the Trump family's cryptocurrency token and emailing tips about spending cuts to Vivek Ramaswamy. What the hell are these folks doing? I mean, they're not just playing with matches relative to our economy. Serious time bombs, given what Donald Trump is saying he wants to do, and all the other players that are out there who could react in a way that could harm the very interest of these folks on Wall Street.
Yeah, so they're doing, I think, what they called in the 18th century or in the 8th century, bending the knee, right? They're doing what Timothy Snyder said. They're obeying in advance. Now, look, Companies have always lobbied. They've always tried to do the thing that puts them in favor of the administration in charge. But there's a very clear delineation between the outgoing Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration, and it's got to do with regulation. A lot of these companies have faced a Federal Trade Commission under Lena Khan that has been very, very assertive. No new laws have been brought in, but she's been very assertive about you can't control too much of the market. You can't do certain things. They want not just a Trump. Remember, in 2016, you wanted a Trump who didn't target you on social media, who didn't take your name, who didn't come after you. Now you want something different. You want a deregulatory Trump. You want a Trump that's going to allow your company to do what it wants. So if you're social media or you're a company that controls up to a third of the market, which is the threshold for federal regulation, you really want these guys on your side. So they are paying homage to him. They're showing up in the places where he will listen. I don't love it, and I'll tell you why I don't love it. There's something called the Edelman Trust Barometer. The big public relations firm Edelman for many years has been seeing who Americans trust. Well, in the absence of trusting your government and your courts, they are trusting their businesses, believe it or not. Corporate America has greater trust than any of the other institutions in our society. They're giving up that trust. We're in a low unemployment world. Employees want their companies to be doing the right thing and be in the right places more than they even want raises and titles. And these companies are signaling to their employees and their customers that we care more about engendering favor with the administration than we do about our core principles. That's a big long-term mistake. And as it relates to gender equality, as it relates to racial equality, as it relates to the climate and the things that people care about, they're sending a signal that we care more about deregulation, low taxes, and currying favor with this administration than we care about you, our customers, you, our employees. I think it's a bad long-term strategy.
We have less than a minute left, which, because you're a TV person, you understand what I mean when I say that. Those are all policies that relate to other countries. We're also talking about mass deportation in this country. I don't know if you saw, there was some reporting that the ag industry said, well, we're going to be spared, right? Because you understand the inflationary nature of not having labor.
Republicans have always understood that. Republican governors in the West. I remember speaking to John Huntsman of Utah 15 plus, maybe 20 years ago about the fact that they wanted a guest worker program for their workers. America's going to suffer. Now, look, that may be the only way to solve this discussion, to realize that if you try and deport 11 million people, not only will your agriculture suffer, that'll be the key one, your construction will suffer, your ability to build roads, personal construction will suffer, home building will suffer, all these things will suffer. There are a lot of people now saying, look, I don't want to get in the way of your weird political policies, but this is an economic policy. This will hurt us all if it happens. Yet to see, I think it's like the 25% tariffs on Brazil and on Mexico and Canada and China. Not 100% sure all this is going to happen. I think these are opening salvos. They are beginnings of discussions. I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish. He said it's going to happen, but this is going to be economically very hard to get to.
Pollyanna and Trump don't necessarily go together in the same sentence, but it's more than the 11 million people, because what happens is the cold effect it has on everybody else who decides, I'm not going to go to work tomorrow because I don't know if I'm on some list or not.
That's right. And when we don't know where these lists are, and we don't know when everybody seems to have them. And Kash Patel's coming in with his own list.
Right.
A lot of lists going around.
A lot of lists.
I just want to be on Santa's list. That's the only list I want to be on.
That's where I am.